Hello friends, my name is Hasib Ansari from HiFiCode.com. Thank you for joining me in this video today. Today's topic is a bit interesting one as we are going to integrate the previously created Keycloak client with this Spring Boot application that we see on the screen. And in order to make the video more interesting, I will first demonstrate that what we are going to achieve by the end of this video, and this will also help the people to stay connected to the video because they know that what they will be going to learn. And we will be using the previously created client from the last video. So I have done some changes to the previously created client that we saw in the last video, but anyhow I will be covering that changes in this video today. And so without wasting any further time, let's get started. As you can already see on the screen that I have developed an application with an example scenario of a school, and inside a school I have a lot of different departments. I will quickly share a picture that I also have over here. So we have an example of a school, and a school has different departments, as well as it also has a public area where it can advertise its information for any general public on the internet. And plus they have some actors inside the school which has different tasks to perform. So let's say that this is an application that we will consider for our video today. And inside the school, a student has an access to the classroom, so where he studies. He also has access to the library. He has access to the sports center, but in no way he should have access to the office or the principal room, and so on. Similarly, the teacher will have access to the staff room, the library, the class, the sports ground, etc. And I have marked all the accesses with the legends over here. So let's say like the principal is the topmost hierarchy in this application, where the principal will have access to all the departments or all the places. So in this case, in our application, the principal will have access to all the area in the private section. So, and I have also, for the example, I have stated the clerk and the librarian, and they will have access only to their departments. So for example, the clerk will have access to the office and the librarian will have access to the library. And also like all these actors, because they will have a secure session, so that is they will logged into the system to go into the private area, all of them will have an access to the common place called as home in our application. But for example, anyone on the internet can only see the public area that we expose from the application to the internet. In no way they will have access to the private area resources. And this is what I will be showing in the application, in the Spring Boot application. And for the first time in this video, we will just see how any actors can actually enter into the private area. And in the next video, we will see like this legends or this accesses, how we can manage the accesses and authorize each of the actor to have only specific access to the specific resources. So let's get back to the application. In the application, I have created some users. So I have some users created called as clerk, librarian, student, teacher, and so on. And in the client, I have extended the client from the last video, and I have added some endpoints over here. I have added the roles in order to authorize or give specific access to each actor, and I will be using this one of the user to get into the specific places or department. So I will start with the student user, and so this is the home page which will be exposed to the internet, so everyone can see this page, which is the home in the public area. And once I click on the classroom, I will be redirected, or I will be forced to make a login first, because the next resource that we are going to see is no more a public resource, and it is some sort of a private resource. So we should have a secure session to that resource, and in this case I have already registered myself, so I can directly give my credentials and get into the private resource, which is my classroom. And over here, as I am registered, it will have my information. So I have a username student, my name was registered, the email address, and the roles that I have in this specific application in my Hi-Fi Code school. So these are the roles that I have in the scope of this application. And I don't want to go into the authorization stuff, but just because I am logged in with the student user, what if I try to access the staff rooms, and I will get a forbidden, as I don't have that specific role to see this page or to see or to access this resource. So I can only have access to the classrooms. To the library I can have access, so I can see the page in the library. I can have access to the sports, but I cannot have access to the principal or to the library, to the office, and so on. So I log out quickly, and in order to check whether, as we have said in the example, the principal will have access to all the departments over here. So in order to check it or to try it, let's see, I will log in with the principal credentials, and in the principal department or the place, I have all the roles of the principal over here, and I have access to the principal's office. I will also be having access to all the tabs, all the menu bars over here. For example, in the sports area I have the access, library I have, office, staff rooms, classrooms, and the home. So this is the home inside the private area. This is not the same as the public home. So this will not be exposed to the internet. This is only exposed when we are having a secure session. So this is what we will be achieving by the end of the next video, but the scope of today's video is just to see how we can integrate a Keycloak login when we divert or when we redirect from the public area and try to access any of this private area resource. So how we can integrate or bring our application to see this login screen. That will be the scope of today's video, and the authorization stuff with the different actors we will see in the next video. Also, to mention a point over here is that I will not go in detail in the implementation of the Spring Boot application itself, but rather I will focus more on the integration part, like how to configure the Spring Boot application to enable this login from the both system. And so now I will quickly reset everything, and we will start from the point where we left in the last video. So I have reset everything back, and also from this application, the Spring Boot application and the Keycloak client, and this is where we left in the last video. And we will start by extending this form. So last time I was speaking about the root URL, the base URL, and also the backchannel logout URL. So this is basically nothing, but we need to fill it with the root URL of our application. So now, because we have the application ready, we can fill this field. So the root URL will be just this part. The base URL of our application will be the URL, the host name, the port, and the context path. The admin URL is also like the base path, and the backchannel logout URL will be also the base path of our application. And the backchannel logout URL is basically nothing but when we send a logout request from the application, or let's say from one application, the signal goes to the Keycloak, and Keycloak then uses this field to log out in all the applications that is connected or that is configured in this realm. So if I come back, if I log out from this application, Spring app, the Keycloak will start seeing the logout URL of all these clients, and it will send a logout request also to those clients. So this is how Keycloak makes a global logout that to the clients or to the applications that are connected in a realm. So hence, to have a backchannel logout, we will have it configured. So because I did not save the settings, I have to fill it again. So I'll quickly fill everything back and I will save the settings. So now I'll go back to the Spring Boot application, and right now, as you can see, if I go through the different tabs or the areas, I will be not redirected to the login page of the Keycloak, and I will start seeing all the application. So the error that you see over here is because it is trying to resolve the variable, but because we are not connected to the Keycloak, Keycloak cannot send that variable's values, and so we see the error messages over here. But this will surely go off when we have the integrated Keycloak, and then we will start seeing our the right values. So let's see from the application side. So I will quickly stop the running application, and this is the Spring Boot application configured. And as I said, I will not go in detail in the Spring Boot application. So but the source code will be available in my GitHub repository, so you can have the access, you can go through it, you can also use it as an example if you want. You can also use your own installation of Keycloak with this example, and what you will need is the exact thing that we will be going to do now. So what you have to do is you have to come to this application.properties file, and in this file, so this is the Spring configuration that I did to make this application running. So now, right now, the part that we will be doing is for the Keycloak stuff. So I will just comment this, or I will just make it as a label, Keycloak, and here we will be setting all the configuration that we require for the Keycloak. So the first thing is this application to know where the Keycloak is, and this application will know it with this settings. It is called keycloak.auth minus or hyphen server hyphen URL, and the value of this configuration or value of this property should be equal to the Keycloak that you have till the auth. So this part, so it should look like this. So this is the foremost important setting that you need to give to the Spring Boot app. The second setting is which realm in this Keycloak that this application should connect to. So again, it is inside the Keycloak, and it is realm, and this settings or properties should be equal to your realm name. So this name, and I will copy paste so that I don't have any typo, and also this is dot, not comma. And the next setting is also And important, like when it goes to the realm, so it is like traversing into the Keycloak server. And so when it goes to the realm, it wants to know now that which application or which client it needs to connect to, or it is for. So it is called as a resource, and this value should be equivalent to the value of your configured client, so the client ID. And I give this as a client name or the client ID. So right now our application, our Spring Boot application, knows where the Keycloak is, and inside that Keycloak there could be many realms, so which realm to connect to, and inside a single realm there could be many applications, so which client or which application inside Keycloak to connect to. And the other part is for the security stuff. So like we remember in the last video, when we created the client, we made the client to be a confidential client. That means when we want our Spring Boot application to connect to this client, it would require this client settings or client credentials. And this is like the secret that we will get from the console of Keycloak. But the setting goes like this: keycloak.credentials.secret. And the value of this one comes from the credential tab of our application or a client, and this is the credential that we require. And what else do we need? Yeah, so when we make a login, we should map the username that is coming from the Keycloak to be the preferred username. So there is one configuration from the Spring Boot and the Keycloak side, and this is called as keycloak.principal.preferred username, or principal minus attribute is equals to preferred underscore username. Oh, there's a typo here. So this will map the username coming from the Keycloak to the Spring username in the principal object. And apart from this, configuring this part in the application.properties, we also need to make sure that we have the dependency package for the Keycloak in Spring Boot, and that will make to enable the Keycloak security. So we need to go to the pom.xml file, and here we will need the settings or the dependencies. So I will quickly get it from my GitHub repository. So we need this dependency, and it will go right over here. And there will be a starter kit with Spring Boot and Keycloak. So yeah, this part. So I will copy this dependency and I'll paste it at the end. Yeah, so I will quickly re-import my Maven project. So I have all the libraries in place. I will clean my project first. So what I'm trying to do is I'm quickly trying to run with our settings that we did in the application properties, and we'll see whether we can make the redirection possible with these settings or not. And then I will quickly install, and it might take some seconds. And when it is still starting, let's quickly check the application that it is not running. Yeah, so it's fine. And all my in the coding side, all my controllers are set in this school controller, and I'm taking a path parameter as a place, and this is defined like the classrooms or the staff rooms, principal room, and so on. And at the end I just return the same name or the place, which is then resolved into the view from the templates. And so it is successfully built. I will quickly run my application. Yeah, it is trying to run the Spring application. Let's see whether we achieve the result or not. So I'll go back to my browser and run this. So I have the public home page, and let's see what happens when I try to go to the private area in this case, and I still have the error message. And if I go on to the different areas, I still can go on, I still can open that page without the redirection to the Keycloak. So there is some still settings missing from our application.properties side. So we will quickly go back to the application.properties. So here we have actually configured the Keycloak, which says like where the Keycloak server is and which application and realm to connect to. But still the part that is missing right now is which path of our application is protected. So we have the public area, which is here right now, which is the home, and what differentiates that, or what tells our application that these area are protected area or a private area. And exactly that setting was missing, which we will now configure. So Keycloak has this long properties that we need to set for the settings. So instead of typing, I will quickly grab it from the GitHub repository. And yeah, so we need to secure our URLs, and I will first paste it over there and I will try to explain it what it means. So I have the pattern that I want to protect. So in the section of secure URLs, I want to protect from my application this URL. So if I go back to my controller and I have this endpoint. So what I said in the application.properties, that whoever is trying to coming to this controller with private user, and when the place is welcome, so let me go back to the properties. So it's a welcome, and if the place is welcome, then treat it as a private area. That means it should have a secure session, a login session, and then please redirect it to the Keycloak. And over here, because this is a private area, it is accessing that private area with a role. And so to have access to this resource, the user who will be logging in should have this, or should minimum have this role to access this area. So I mean the authorization part itself is required right here in this integration in order to redirect to this pattern or to this URL. But I will explain this thing in detail in the next video, where I will be covering more actors into the picture so that the whole scenario is also understood. So right now we need these two settings to redirect to the Keycloak, and this is the exact part which makes, or which differs, the public area and the private area. So I will quickly restart the application and wait for the application to start again with this two configuration, and then I hope for this endpoint we will have the redirect to the Keycloak login. So our application has been started. I'll go back to my application. I'll just refresh the page, and so this is the welcome page. I'll try to click on this private area, and I have the redirect to the Keycloak page. That means our configuration was successful. and right now I don't have any user, so this will be the next part I will be doing to log in. So I'll just come back to this page, and then I go to the admin console, and remember that all these other pages will not work because the URL that we configured right now is just for the welcome page or the welcome endpoint. So this is classroom endpoint, staff room endpoint, so this will not work. So, and because the welcome page of the private area, so the home of the private area is accessible to all our actors in the next video. So I will quickly create one user and give him the welcome access role. So here you have to go to the users area. You need to create add user, and I will quickly create an admin user. I'll give him the email, the email as admin@hificode.com, the first name as admin, the last name as hificode, and then I should say save. And once you click the button save, you will see the credentials tab. Go on it and give it a password, and then make sure that you quickly switch off this temporary button or the switch, so that the user don't have to change again the password when he makes the first login. So instead, as I'm the super admin, I have this control, and I will quickly make this switch off, and I will say set password, and I will set the password. And also what we need to do is, in the client section of this Spring Boot app, we will quickly go on the role section, and right now we don't have any role attached to this client. So we will quickly make a role, and so in the configuration we set the role name to be welcome access. So we should make the role with the same name, exact same name. So I will just copy the name from here and I will paste it over here, and I'll just say save, and I'll go back to the user that I created just now, so the admin user with this email address, and I'll go to the role mappings. I'll go back to the client, and then I will only when I'll create this role in this client, in the Spring Boot app client, then only I will see that the same role over here, so here, and then I will say add selected, and this step is actually assigning the role to this admin user. So I am assigning the welcome access role to this user, so in order that he can access to this page when I log in. So now I have the user, but there is one more catch, but we will just go and try to log in with the user. So I will say admin and the password. When I try to get in, I am still saying forbidden. This is like some sort of speciality in Keycloak, because when you see it in the clients, you have a role section and you can define roles over here. And also in the realm, so on the realm level, so this is on the client level, this part, this role, and also on the realm level, so hificode, you also have a role section over here, and there is also possibility to add a role over here, but we are dealing right now with the client role, and in order to enable that part, so not considering, so right now what it sees that when I go to the user, it is expecting, instead of this role assigned over here, it is expecting the role to be in this area, to be in this assigned roles over here. So that's why we still having this forbidden. So what we will do in order to tell the configuration or the Spring Boot adapter that please don't look here for my roles, but instead look on the client side, is by giving a new settings in the application.properties file. And again, for that I'll quickly refer to my GitHub repo, and this is the settings which says use resource role mapping. So resource is also kind of the client. So I will copy this and I will give it to my Spring Boot app, and I will just restart my application. So this will start in few seconds, and yeah, now so I'll go back to the application. I'll refresh over here, and I'll try to go back to the login area, and yeah, I'll try to log in. So admin and the password. Okay, so again I have an error which says okay, so I think like when I was recreating the configuration I missed one part, so I have one more class over here which was exactly filling the values. So I will go back to my GitHub main, so this utils package, yeah, so I'm missing this class, so I will quickly create that class in my source code. So package, which is utils, and I will just create the Java class, which is Keycloak and util Java. Okay, Keycloak token utils. And I will just go and copy this code. And in the controller I need one more setting over here. So again back to the GitHub repo, and in the hi-fi code examples controllers, so I need this part. So I will quickly import that class, yeah, and also this. Oh, okay. Keycloak token utils. Yeah, now it looks good. So I will again restart my application, and hopefully this time we will achieve the result that we were expecting. So let's give it a time, and yes, it started. So let's go and make first logout, and then log in again over here, give the same credential, and let's see what is the result. So now we can see that we are now into the private area of this home. So this is only possible if we have the successful login through Keycloak, and the same admin user can also have access to the other resources like the classrooms, staff rooms, and everywhere. So pretty much it's the same thing. We don't have any configuration yet in the properties file, so only this part is protected and the others are not. So that's why we can surf through all the areas or the tabs over here. And so yeah, this was pretty much it, like how we can configure a Spring Boot application via our Keycloak. So when we make a logout, we come back to the public home of this application, and then this will not work exactly. So we can only make a login via this login tab, because this is the welcome endpoint. So when we go to the endpoint, we again make the same user, and we can get inside a private area, and again we can scroll or surf through the tabs. So this was it from the part of integrating Keycloak with a Spring Boot app. In the next video, I will go in detail in securing the other areas or the tabs that we see in the menu bar, and we will talk more about the authorization stuff, and we will give different users or actors different roles to surf through these areas. And I will also share the GitHub repository link in the description below, so you can have, as I said, you can have access to the source code. And if you face a problem anywhere, you can always refer back to my GitHub repo. So that was it from the today's topic, and with this thing I would conclude my video here. And in the next video, I hope I will see you again and how we take things further. So till then, stay safe, stay blessed, and thank you all for your presence.